Marcus heard the scream before he saw her. Lily, the biker leader's daughter, thrashing in the icy lake. Without thinking, the homeless teenager dove in, pulling her limp body to shore. He breathed life back into her frozen lungs as sirens wailed in the distance. The next morning, leather boots stopped outside Marcus's cardboard shelter. Lily's father towered over him, his gang flanking both sides. Marcus's heart hammered as the biker king reached into his jacket. But what he pulled out wasn't a weapon. It was something Marcus never expected to see. Something that would change everything. Welcome to Hell's Angels family. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because this story will touch your heart in ways you won't expect. To my faithful subscribers, may God continue to bless you abundantly. Before we dive in, let's lift this moment up in prayer. Heavenly Father, I ask for your divine protection over everyone watching. Bless their families, heal their bodies, provide for their needs, and give them peace. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Now, what you're about to witness isn't just a story about a heroic rescue. It's about a homeless 12-year-old who saves a drowning girl, only to discover he's trapped in a deadly conspiracy involving corrupt cops, stolen millions, and a past he can't remember, a past that could destroy them all. The crack of ice splitting apart is a sound that marks the end of things. Marcus had heard it before, 3 winters ago, when another kid fell through near Navy Pier. The Coast Guard found the body 2 days later, locked beneath a sheet of ice, eyes still open. That sound meant death. It meant time had run out. It meant no second chances. Marcus's hands were still numb from digging through the dumpster behind Sullivan's Diner when he heard it echo across the frozen lake. He spun around, a half-eaten sandwich falling from his grip, just in time to see the small figure in the pink coat disappear beneath the frozen surface of Lake Michigan. The teddy bear she'd been carrying bobbed on the black water for a moment before it too began to sink, like a drowning ghost reaching for help that would never come. For half a heartbeat, Marcus froze. Every survival instinct he'd sharpened during 8 brutal months on Chicago's streets screamed at him to run, to not get involved, to stay invisible like he always did. Getting noticed meant questions. Questions meant social services. Social services meant another foster home, another family that would look at him like a paycheck instead of a person. But his legs were already moving. He hit the ice at full sprint, his worn sneakers sliding on the slick surface. The frozen lake groaned beneath his weight like a living thing in pain. The shore seemed miles away now, though it couldn't have been more than 30 feet. Ahead, the hole in the ice gaped like a dark mouth, and somewhere beneath it, a 7-year-old girl was drowning in water so cold it could stop a heart in minutes. Don't think. Just move. Marcus launched himself forward and dove headfirst into the abyss. The cold didn't just hit him. It attacked with the fury of something personal. It wrapped around his chest like iron bands, squeezing the air from his lungs in one violent rush. The world became a blur of black water and burning cold. His eyes stung from the icy lake, but he forced them open, searching desperately through the murky darkness that seemed to have no bottom. There, a flash of pink, sinking fast into the depths. Marcus kicked harder, his frozen muscles screaming in protest with every movement. The cold was trying to shut his body down, trying to convince him to just stop fighting and let the darkness take him. His fingers brushed fabric, and he grabbed with everything he had. The girl's coat filled his fist, and he pulled, dragging her limp body toward the surface. His lungs were on fire, desperate for air. Black spots danced across his vision like tiny demons mocking his efforts. Just a little more. Don't let go. Don't you dare let go. They broke through together, gasping and choking. Marcus's arms felt like lead weights, but he somehow managed to haul them both toward the edge of solid ice, then to the snowy bank. The moment they hit the shore, he rolled the girl onto her side, his training from a first aid class he'd taken 2 years ago flooding back. She wasn't breathing. No, no, no. Marcus's hands shook violently as he tilted her head back, swept her mouth clear, and started chest compressions. His own body was shutting down from the cold, his wet clothes already starting to freeze solid against his skin, but he couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. Come on. Please. Don't do this. Water dribbled from her blue lips, but her chest didn't rise. Her skin had taken on a bluish tint that made Marcus's stomach twist. He bent down and breathed into her mouth, then pumped her chest again. 5 compressions. 1 breath. 5 compressions. 1 breath. The rhythm became everything. His entire world narrowed to this one moment, this one life hanging in the balance. Breathe, he shouted, slamming his palms against her sternum one more time, putting every ounce of desperate hope into that single compression. The girl convulsed. Water exploded from her mouth as she coughed and gasped violently, her eyes flying open wide with terror. She sucked in a desperate, rattling breath, then another, her small body shaking so hard Marcus thought she might break apart. Marcus collapsed beside her in the snow, his vision swimming, his entire body feeling like it was made of shattered glass. They'd made it. They were alive. Against all odds, they were both still breathing. Behind him, the diner door crashed open with enough force to crack the frame. Lily, the roar could have shattered windows 3 blocks away. Marcus turned to see a mountain of a man charging toward them, his massive frame moving with surprising speed. His leather vest strained across shoulders that looked capable of breaking cars in half. The Hell's Angel's Death's Head patch seemed to glow in the weak afternoon light, and the skull's empty eyes seemed to follow Marcus as the man ran. Behind him, a dozen more bikers poured out of the diner like an invading army, their faces twisted with panic and rage. Reaper. Marcus had heard the stories. Everyone on the south side had. Reaper didn't forgive, didn't forget. And he protected what was his with a violence that made hardened criminals cross the street when they saw him coming. There were rumors about bodies that disappeared, about people who crossed him and were never seen again. Lily. Reaper dropped to his knees beside his daughter with a heavy thud, and suddenly those massive scarred hands were impossibly gentle as he lifted her into his arms like she was made of spun glass. Baby, talk to me. Talk to Daddy. Can you hear me? Sea cold. Lily whimpered through chattering teeth, her small fingers clutching weakly at her father's vest. Her lips were still blue, her whole body trembling like a leaf caught in a hurricane. I wanted to pet the kitty. I'm sorry, Daddy. Shoo, baby, it's okay. You're okay now. Reaper's voice cracked with something that might have been fear, and Marcus realized with shock that the legendary biker king was crying. Actual tears carved lines through the dirt on his scarred face. Marcus tried to stand, but his legs gave out beneath him like broken branches. He needed to run, needed to disappear before questions started flying, before police arrived and someone ran his name through the system, and he ended up in another foster home with another family that didn't want him. He'd rather freeze on the streets than go back to that. But his body wouldn't cooperate. His muscles had simply given up. Reaper's head snapped toward him, and for the first time, the biker king seemed to actually see him. His eyes, one brown and clear, one clouded with scar tissue from some ancient wound, locked onto Marcus with an intensity that made the 12-year-old's stomach drop straight through the frozen ground. You pulled her out? Reaper's voice was rough, dangerous, like gravel grinding against steel. Marcus nodded, unable to speak through his violently chattering teeth. His whole jaw ached from shivering. If you're watching this from anywhere in the world, drop a comment and let us know where you're from. Something shifted in Reaper's expression, something Marcus couldn't read. Gratitude? Suspicion? Recognition? The biker carefully handed Lily to one of his men, a thin guy with snake tattoos crawling up his neck and disappearing beneath his collar. Get her in the van. Crank the heat. Keep her conscious. Move. Then Reaper shrugged off his leather jacket and wrapped it around Marcus's shoulders. The jacket was still warm from body heat, heavy and smelling of cigarettes, motor oil, and something else Marcus couldn't quite place. Marcus stared up at him, confused and frightened. What's your name, kid? Marcus. Marcus what? Just Marcus. Reaper's scarred eye twitched. Where are your parents, Marcus? The question hit like a physical blow. Marcus looked away, focusing on the frozen lake, on the hole in the ice that was already starting to seal itself as if nothing had happened, as if a girl hadn't almost died there minutes ago. Don't have any. Foster care. Marcus didn't answer, which was answer enough. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer with every second. Marcus's heart rate spiked into overdrive. He tried to stand again, and this time managed to get his feet under him, though his knees wobbled dangerously. He started to slip out of the jacket to return it. "Keep it," Reaper said flatly. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order. Two paramedics in bright uniforms rushed past them toward where Lily sat wrapped in blankets in the back of a van. Behind them, 3 squad cars pulled into the parking lot, their lights painting the snow red and blue. Marcus's survival instincts kicked into overdrive. Time to go. Time to vanish. He turned to run, but a hand clamped down on his shoulder like a steel trap. Not Reaper's hand. The snake-tattooed guy's. "Where you going, hero?" Snake's smile didn't reach his cold eyes. His grip was iron, fingers digging into Marcus's collarbone hard enough to leave bruises. "You just saved the boss's daughter. That means you're coming with us. We need to make sure you're okay. Check you out. Warm you up proper." I don't want anything." Marcus tried to pull away, but 2 more bikers materialized on either side of him like ghosts, blocking any escape route. "Not asking, kid." Snake jerked his head toward a black van parked at the edge of the lot, its windows tinted so dark they looked like holes cut into reality. "The boss wants to thank you properly. Make sure you're taken care of." Marcus's mouth went dry as desert sand. He watched as paramedics loaded Lily onto a stretcher, Reaper climbing in beside her, his massive frame barely fitting in the ambulance. The biker king caught Marcus's eye one more time before the ambulance doors closed, and something in that look made Marcus's skin crawl beneath the wet clothes. It wasn't just gratitude. It was recognition. Like Reaper knew him from somewhere. Like they'd met before. But that was impossible. Marcus had never seen these people before in his life. He would have remembered someone like Reaper. You didn't forget a man like that. The bikers steered Marcus toward the van with firm hands. He considered fighting. He learned a few moves on the streets. But what was the point? 3 grown men who looked like they ate nails for breakfast versus one half-frozen 12-year-old who could barely stand. The math didn't work in his favor. Snake opened the van's back doors and gestured inside with mock courtesy. "After you, hero." Marcus climbed in on shaking legs, his wet clothes already starting to freeze solid. 3 more bikers piled in after him, boxing him in completely. The doors slammed shut with a finality that sounded like a coffin closing, cutting off the afternoon light. Through the tinted windows, Marcus watched Sullivan's diner fade behind them as the van pulled onto the street. They passed the hospital, the one where the ambulance had taken Lily, without even slowing down. "Where are we going?" Marcus asked, trying desperately to keep his voice steady and failing. Snake looked back from the passenger's seat, his smile sharp as broken glass. "The boss wants to see you at the warehouse. Got some questions that need answering." The van turned south, heading toward the industrial district where the streets got darker and the cops rarely patrolled. Where people disappeared and nobody asked questions. Marcus's pulse hammered in his ears, so loud he could barely hear anything else. He'd made a mistake. A huge, possibly fatal mistake. He should have let someone else save the girl. Should have stayed invisible like he'd learned to do. Invisible meant safe. Visible meant danger. After 20 long minutes, they pulled up to an abandoned warehouse. Rust ate at the corrugated metal walls like a disease. The windows were either boarded up or broken, jagged glass teeth jutting from the frames. This was the kind of place where people disappeared and were never found. Where bodies ended up in the Chicago River with concrete shoes. Hit that subscribe button. This story is just getting started, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Snake hauled Marcus out of the van by his arm and marched him toward a side entrance. The door creaked open on rusted hinges, revealing darkness inside that seemed to swallow light. Marcus's legs felt like jelly, but the bikers kept him moving, their hands firm on his shoulders, pushing him into the shadows. Fluorescent lights flickered on overhead with an electric buzz, revealing the interior in stuttering bursts. Marcus's heart stopped completely. The warehouse walls were covered, absolutely covered, in missing person flyers. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Faces stared down at him from every direction, a sea of the vanished. Men, women, children. Some of the flyers were yellowed with age, their edges curling. Others looked fresh off the printer. Red strings connected some faces to others, creating a spider web of connections Marcus couldn't understand. And there, in the center of the far wall, enlarged to poster size, was a flyer that made Marcus's blood turn to ice in his veins. His own face stared back at him. Marcus Miller, age 12, missing since April 15th. Last seen, Chicago, Illinois. But that wasn't possible. That couldn't be right. Marcus hadn't been reported missing. He'd just left, disappeared into the streets after his foster father vanished with all their money. Nobody had been looking for him. Nobody cared about another throwaway kid from the system. Had they? Recognize anyone? Snake asked, his voice soft and dangerous behind Marcus's ear, his breath hot against the back of Marcus's neck. Marcus couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. His eyes were locked on his own face, on the word missing blazing above his head in red letters that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Heavy footsteps echoed from the back of the warehouse. Boots on concrete, slow and deliberate. Reaper emerged from the shadows like a monster from a nightmare, still wearing his blood-stained vest. He walked slowly toward Marcus, each step echoing in the cavernous space, his ruined eye gleaming in the fluorescent light. "Marcus Miller," Reaper said, and something in his voice made it clear this wasn't a question. This was a statement of fact. 8 months we've been looking for you, kid. 8 months since you disappeared the same night Robert Miller vanished. Marcus's head spun. The warehouse tilted around him. "I don't. Who's Robert Miller?" Reaper stopped 3 feet away, studying Marcus's face like he was searching for a lie, for any hint of deception. "Robert Miller was your foster father. He was also my accountant. Handled all the club's finances." His voice dropped to barely a whisper, but somehow it filled the entire warehouse. "And the last person to see him alive was you." Marcus's knees buckled. "Robert Miller was my foster father?" The words felt wrong in his mouth, like speaking a foreign language he'd never learned. Robert Miller. The name echoed in his skull, bouncing off empty walls where memories should have been. He knew that name. He had to know it. But when he reached for the memories, there was nothing but darkness and the faint smell of cigarette smoke. Reaper's scarred face twisted into something between pity and suspicion. He pulled a metal folding chair across the concrete floor, the screech making Marcus wince. "Sit down before you fall down, kid." Marcus didn't argue. His legs gave out the moment he reached the chair. Around him, the missing person flyers seemed to multiply, hundreds of eyes watching his every move. His own face stared back at him from the wall, accusing him of something he couldn't remember. "I don't understand," Marcus whispered. "I've been on the streets since April. Since my foster dad left me and took all the money. But I don't remember. I can't remember his face. I can't remember what he looked like." Snake laughed from somewhere behind him, a cold sound without humor. "Convenient. Shut it, Snake." Reaper's voice cracked like a whip. The warehouse fell silent. The biker king dragged another chair over and sat down, his massive frame making the metal creak. "Marcus, I'm going to tell you a story. You're going to listen. And then you're going to tell me if any of it sounds familiar. Deal?" Marcus nodded, his throat too tight to speak. 8 months ago, Robert Miller was my accountant. Best damn numbers guy I ever met. The club's finances were complicated. Lots of businesses, lots of moving parts. Robert kept everything clean, kept us legitimate. Made sure the IRS couldn't touch us. Reaper pulled out his phone, swiped through a few screens, then held it up. The photo showed a man in his 40s with sandy hair and kind eyes, standing in front of a motorcycle. He wore a Chicago Cubs baseball cap and was smiling at the camera. Something about that smile tugged at the darkness in Marcus's mind, like a fish pulling at a line. "That's Robert," Reaper said. "Your foster father. You lived with him in a 2-bedroom apartment in Pilsen. You'd been with him for almost 2 years. He was trying to adopt you." The words hit Marcus like physical blows. Adopt. Someone had wanted to adopt him. Someone had wanted to keep him forever. But that couldn't be right. Nobody kept foster kids like Marcus. He was too old, too damaged, too much trouble. "I don't remember him," Marcus said, and hated how his voice cracked on the words. Reaper swiped to another photo. This one showed Marcus, younger, healthier, smiling. sitting at a picnic table with Robert. They were eating hot dogs and laughing. Marcus looked happy. He looked like he belonged somewhere. This was taken at our club barbecue last June, Reaper continued. You came with Robert. You met my daughter that day. Another swipe. Lily appeared on the screen, 7 years old with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile. She was holding hands with the younger version of Marcus, both of them covered in face paint. You two were inseparable that whole afternoon. Lily talked about you for weeks after. Marcus stared at the photo, willing himself to remember. The darkness in his mind shifted, and for just a moment, he caught a flash of something. A girl's laughter, the smell of grilled meat, sunshine on his face. Then it was gone. Why can't I remember? His hands clenched into fists on his thighs. What's wrong with me? That's what we need to figure out. Reaper put his phone away and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. In March, Robert came to me with a problem. Someone was stealing from the club. Not small amounts. We're talking millions over the past 3 years. Money was disappearing from our accounts and showing up in offshore banks. Robert had been tracking it for months, building a case. Snake moved closer, his shadow falling across Marcus. Robert said he was close to finding out who it was. Said he had proof. Then on April 15th, both of you vanished. The club tore Chicago apart looking for you, Reaper said. We checked hospitals, morgues, shelters. We had our people watching bus stations, train depots, airports. You both just disappeared like smoke. And the financial records Robert was keeping? Also gone. Marcus's head spun. None of this made sense. But I've been on the streets. I remember being on the streets. I remember the cold, the hunger, digging through dumpsters. What's the first thing you remember? Reaper asked. From April. What's the very first memory you have? Marcus closed his eyes, reaching back through the darkness. I was in an alley behind a grocery store. It was morning. I was cold and hungry, and I didn't know how I got there. I had $20 in my pocket and the clothes on my back. That's it. Everything before that is just black. If this story is gripping you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. 8 months of memories, gone. Reaper stood and walked to the wall of missing persons flyers. We found your foster father's apartment cleaned out. His car was found abandoned at O'Hare Airport, but security footage showed he never got on a plane. It was like someone staged it to make it look like he ran. Or like he was taken, Snake added, his voice dark. Marcus felt sick. You think someone kidnapped him? Kidnapped us. I think someone made both of you disappear, Reaper said. The question is why you came back and Robert didn't. He pulled something from his vest pocket, a USB drive. 2 weeks ago, one of my guys found this taped under Robert's desk at his office. We'd searched that place 100 times. Someone must have put it there recently. He plugged the drive into a laptop one of his men brought over. The screen flickered to life, showing a video file. Robert Miller's face filled the screen, and Marcus's breath caught in his throat. That face. He knew that face. If you're watching this, it means something happened to me, Robert's recorded voice said. His eyes were red-rimmed, his hands shaking as he adjusted the camera. The person stealing from the Hells Angels is someone on the inside. Someone Reaper trusts. I have proof, but I can't go to him yet. Not until I'm sure. The embezzler has connections with the Chicago PD. Deputy Chief Frank Morrison is dirty. He's been laundering the money. Marcus leaned forward, his heart pounding. On the screen, Robert looked directly at the camera. If something happens to me, someone needs to protect Marcus. He doesn't know anything about this, but they might think he does. They might come after him too. The video cut off abruptly, replaced by static. That's all we could recover, Snake said. The file was corrupted, but it tells us enough. Someone inside the club is dirty, and someone in the Chicago PD is helping them. Reaper turned to Marcus, his one good eye boring into the boy's skull. You lived with Robert for almost 2 years. You must have seen something, heard something. Even if you don't remember, it's in there somewhere. I'm telling you, I don't remember anything before that alley. Marcus's voice rose in desperation. I've tried so hard to remember, but there's just nothing there. Then we'll help you remember. Reaper pulled out his phone again and made a call. Doc? Yeah, it's me. I need you at the warehouse. Now, bring your kit. He hung up and looked at Marcus. We've got a doctor who specializes in head trauma. Maybe you were drugged. Maybe you hit your head. But we're going to find out what happened to those 8 months. The warehouse door opened, and one of the bikers walked in. Boss, we've got a problem. The cops are asking questions about the lake incident. They want to know who pulled Lily out. Tell them it was one of our guys, Reaper said without hesitation. Keep Marcus's name out of it. Too late. Someone at the diner got video. It's already on social media. Kids going viral. Homeless hero saves biker's daughter. News vans are setting up outside the hospital. Reaper cursed under his breath. That complicates things. If Morrison sees that video and recognizes Marcus, he'll know the kid's alive, Snake finished. He'll know his loose end is still breathing. Marcus felt like he was drowning again, pulled down by currents he couldn't see. What does that mean? What happens now? Reaper's expression hardened. It means whoever made you and Robert disappear is going to come finish the job. He pulled out his phone one more time and showed Marcus a photo that made his blood freeze in his veins. The image showed a body bag being loaded into a coroner's van. The caption read, "Body recovered from Chicago River, January 3rd. That's Robert Miller, Reaper said quietly. We got the call 2 days ago. They found him in the water near the docks. Like this video if you're on the edge of your seat. We've got so much more coming." Marcus stared at the photo, something breaking inside his chest. He's dead. That's what I thought at first. Reaper swiped to another image, a coroner's report. But look at the date of death. According to the medical examiner, Robert Miller died less than a week ago. Maybe 5 or 6 days, based on the state of the body and water temperature. The words didn't make sense. Marcus's brain refused to process them. But you said he disappeared 8 months ago. Exactly. Reaper's voice was soft, dangerous. Which means for the last 8 months, while we were all thinking he was dead, Robert Miller was alive somewhere. Someone was keeping him alive. He leaned in close, his scarred face inches from Marcus's. And 3 days ago, right after that video of you started circulating online, someone decided it was time to kill him. The warehouse spun around Marcus. Robert had been alive. Alive all this time. And now he was dead. Dead because of Marcus. Dead because someone saw that video of him saving Lily. There's one more thing, Reaper said, pulling a final photo from his phone. This was found in Robert's pocket when they pulled him from the river. The image showed a small piece of paper, water-damaged, but still readable. On it, written in shaky handwriting, were 3 words. Protect Marcus. Warehouse. Marcus's vision blurred. I don't understand. What warehouse? How did he know? The warehouse door exploded inward with a deafening crash. Men in tactical gear poured through the entrance, rifles raised. Red laser sights swept across the darkness, painting dots on the chests of every biker in the room. A voice boomed over a megaphone. Chicago PD. Everyone on the ground. Now, but these weren't regular cops. Marcus could see it in the way they moved, in the dead look in their eyes. These were Morrison's men, the dirty ones. And leading them through the door, his badge glinting in the fluorescent light, was a man in a suit who looked at Marcus with recognition that promised death. Deputy Chief Frank Morrison had found him. The first gunshot shattered the fluorescent lights overhead, plunging the warehouse into chaos. Move! Reaper grabbed Marcus by the collar and yanked him behind a concrete pillar as bullets tore through the air where they'd been standing. The bikers scattered like roaches, diving for cover behind crates and machinery. Return fire erupted from a dozen directions at once, the muzzle flashes creating a strobe light nightmare. Marcus pressed himself against the cold concrete, his ears ringing from the gunfire. Through the chaos, he could see Morrison's tactical team advancing with military precision, their rifles spitting fire. These weren't cops trying to arrest anyone. They were executioners. The back exit. Snake shouted from somewhere in the darkness. Go, go, go. A biker next to Marcus went down with a scream, clutching his shoulder. Blood spread across his leather vest like spilled wine. Reaper grabbed the wounded man and hauled him toward the rear of the warehouse, his massive strength making it look easy despite the bullets whizzing past his head. Stay close to me, kid. Reaper barked at Marcus. You die. This was all for nothing. They ran through the warehouse in a crouch, using the machinery and storage crates as cover. Behind them, Morrison's voice boomed over the megaphone. "There's nowhere to run, Reaper. Send out the boy, and maybe some of your men live." "Like hell," Reaper growled. He kicked open a service door and shoved Marcus through into a narrow corridor. 5 other bikers followed, including Snake, who was bleeding from a cut above his eye. The corridor led to a loading dock at the back of the building. 3 motorcycles sat waiting, engines already running. Someone had prepared for exactly this kind of emergency. Reaper threw Marcus onto the back of his bike and gunned the engine. "Split up," Reaper ordered. "Lead them away from the compound. Don't go near the clubhouse until I give the all clear. And somebody call the real cops. Let's see how Morrison explains a shootout to his superiors." They roared out of the loading dock into the gray Chicago afternoon. Behind them, more gunfire erupted. Marcus clung to Reaper's vest as the motorcycle weaved through traffic at speeds that made his stomach drop. They took corners so sharp Marcus thought they'd flip, but Reaper handled the bike like it was part of his body. After 15 minutes of high-speed chaos, Reaper finally slowed down. They were in a different part of the city now, somewhere Marcus didn't recognize. The biker pulled into an underground parking garage beneath the apartment building and killed the engine. "We're clear for now," Reaper said, breathing hard. "Morrison won't risk a public chase. Too many cameras." He pulled out his phone and cursed. 3 of my guys aren't answering. Either they're dead or arrested." Marcus slid off the bike, his legs shaking. "What just happened? Why did they try to kill us?" "Because you're a witness to something, even if you don't remember what." Reaper dismounted and paced like a caged animal. "Morrison saw that video of you at the lake. He recognized you. Now he knows you're alive, which means he knows his secret isn't safe. But I don't remember anything." Marcus's voice cracked with frustration. "I can't tell anyone what I don't know. Doesn't matter what you remember. What matters is what Morrison thinks you might remember." Reaper stopped pacing and looked at Marcus with those mismatched eyes. "We need to get you somewhere safe. Somewhere Morrison can't reach." His phone buzzed. Reaper answered it, listened for a moment. Then his face went pale. "When? How long ago?" A pause. "We're on our way." "What is it?" Marcus asked. "Morrison's men just showed up at the hospital. They're trying to take Lily." Reaper was already back on his bike. "Get on. Now." They raced through Chicago's streets, running red lights and weaving between cars. Reaper drove with reckless abandon, his fear for his daughter overriding any sense of self-preservation. Marcus held on for dear life, praying they wouldn't crash. Chicago Memorial Hospital rose before them like a fortress. Reaper parked illegally right in front of the emergency entrance and ran inside, Marcus struggling to keep up. They took the stairs 3 at a time to the pediatric floor. The hallway outside Lily's room was chaos. 2 bikers stood guard at the door, and a security guard lay unconscious on the floor, blood trickling from his temple. A nurse was on the phone with police, her voice shaking. "They got past us," one of the bikers said, his face grim. 3 men in tactical gear. "They went in there 5 minutes ago." Reaper kicked the door open so hard it bounced off the wall. The hospital room was empty. The bed was unmade, machines still beeping, but Lily was gone. A teddy bear lay on the floor, the same one she'd been carrying when she fell through the ice. One of its seams had been torn open, stuffing spilling out onto the tile. "No." Reaper's voice was barely a whisper. "No, no, no." Marcus bent down and picked up the teddy bear. Something hard was lodged inside the stuffing. He reached in and pulled out a small object wrapped in plastic. A USB drive. "What the hell?" Reaper took it from Marcus's shaking hands. This has to be Robert's. He must have hidden it in Lily's bear. He knew we'd keep it safe because it was hers." Subscribe now. This story is about to take a turn you won't believe. Marcus stared at the USB drive, another fragment of memory flickering in the darkness of his mind. A man's voice. "Keep this safe. Don't let anyone know you have it. Not even me." Then darkness again. "We need to see what's on this," Reaper said. "Now." They left the hospital and went to a nearby internet cafe. Reaper chose a computer in the back corner, away from the windows and security cameras. His fingers trembled as he plugged in the drive. Files opened across the screen. Spreadsheets, bank statements, photographs. Email threads. Years of evidence documenting millions of dollars being siphoned from the Hells Angels accounts. And at the center of it all, one name appeared over and over again. Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet. The embezzler wasn't Morrison. Morrison was just the muscle, the one who made the bodies disappear and kept the investigation quiet. The real thief, the one who'd been stealing from the club for 3 years, was someone much closer to Reaper. Snake. That son of a bitch, Reaper breathed, his voice shaking with rage. That backstabbing son of a bitch. He's been with me for 15 years. 15 years. Marcus scrolled through the files, his stomach churning. There were photos of Snake meeting with Morrison at various locations around Chicago. Bank records showing deposits into offshore accounts under fake names. Emails discussing the Miller problem and eliminating loose ends. One email made Marcus's blood run cold. From Snake to Morrison. Date, April 14th. Subject, the accountant knows. Robert Miller has the evidence. He's planning to bring it to Reaper tomorrow. We need to move tonight. Grab both him and the kid. Miller hid a backup somewhere. The kid might know where. Keep them alive until we find it. After that, make them disappear permanently. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Snake had ordered their kidnapping. Snake had kept Robert prisoner for 8 months. And Snake had killed him 3 days ago when the video of Marcus went viral. We have to get this to the FBI, Marcus said. This is enough to arrest both of them. First we get my daughter back. Reaper's voice was ice and murder. Then we deal with Snake. His phone buzzed with a text message. Reaper opened it, and his face went white. The text contained a photo. Lily, bound to a chair in what looked like a basement, tears streaming down her face. Below it, a message. You have something that belongs to me. Bring the drive to the old Riverside warehouse on Polk Street. Come alone. If I see any cops or any of your boys, the girl dies. You have 1 hour. S. Snake had taken Lily. Snake, who'd been standing next to them the whole time. Snake, who'd been at the hospital guarding her. He'd probably been the one who let Morrison's men take her. It's a trap, Marcus said. He'll kill you both the moment you show up. I know. Reaper stared at his daughter's terrified face on the screen. But I don't have a choice. She's my little girl. Then let me come with you. He wants me anyway. That's what this is really about. He's afraid I'll remember what happened during those missing 8 months. Reaper looked at Marcus for a long moment, something like respect flickering in his eyes. You're just a kid. This isn't your fight. Your daughter pulled me out of the darkness today, even if she doesn't know it. Robert was trying to protect me. The least I can do is help save Lily. Marcus stood up straighter. Besides, if Snake thinks I might remember where Robert hid the original evidence, maybe we can use that. Use it how? Tell him I'll only talk to him face to face. Tell him I'll trade what I know for Lily's freedom. It'll buy us time to figure out a plan. Reaper considered this, his jaw working. That might work. But if things go south, you run. You hear me? You get out, and you don't look back. They left the internet cafe and headed for Reaper's bike. As Reaper started the engine, Marcus's phone, the cheap burner he'd bought with panhandling money, buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. One new text from an unknown number. I know you're with Reaper. I know you have the drive. But there's something you need to understand, Marcus. Something your foster daddy didn't tell you before he died. Want to know what really happened on April 15th? Want to know why you can't remember? Meet me at Grant Park, near the fountain. Come alone. Tell Reaper, and the girl dies. You have 30 minutes. Snake. Hit that like button if you need to see what happens next. Marcus stared at the message, his heart hammering. Snake had his number somehow. Snake was offering answers to the 8-month blank space in his memory. But it was obviously a trap, wasn't it? What's wrong? Reaper asked, noticing Marcus's expression. Marcus looked at the biker king, then back at his phone. Snake had Lily at the Riverside warehouse. But he was also at Grant Park, trying to lure Marcus away. Which meant Snake wasn't working alone. There was another player in this game. Someone else who'd been in on it from the beginning. Someone who was supposed to be dead. Marcus's breath caught in his throat as the impossible truth crashed over him like a wave. Marcus. Reaper's voice seemed to come from far away. What is it? Before Marcus could answer, a black SUV screeched to a stop beside them. The window rolled down, and a gun barrel emerged from the darkness inside. But it wasn't pointed at Reaper. It was pointed directly at Marcus's head. And the voice that spoke from inside the SUV was one that shouldn't exist. A voice Marcus recognized despite 8 months of missing memories. A voice that belonged to a dead man. "Hello, son," Robert Miller said from behind the gun. "We need to talk about what you did to me." Time stopped. Marcus stared at the man behind the gun, his mind refusing to process what his eyes were seeing. Robert Miller, his foster father. The man whose body had been pulled from the Chicago River 3 days ago. The man who was supposed to be dead. But he was very much alive. "Get in the SUV, Marcus," Robert said quietly. His voice was different from the recording. Harder, colder. "Both of you. We don't have much time before Morrison's men track us down." Reaper's hand moved toward the weapon hidden in his vest, but Robert cocked the gun. "Don't even think about it, Reaper. I'm not here to hurt anyone, but I will if I have to. Marcus, please. I'll explain everything, but we need to move. Now." Marcus climbed into the SUV on shaking legs, Reaper following close behind. The interior smelled like stale coffee and fear. Robert sat in the driver's seat, the gun still trained on them as another man, someone Marcus didn't recognize, took the wheel. As they pulled into traffic, Marcus finally found his voice. "You're alive. How are you alive?" Robert's face was gaunt, his eyes hollow. He'd aged a decade in 8 months. "The body they pulled from the river wasn't me. It was a homeless man Morrison killed and dressed in my clothes. Planted my wallet on him. Morrison needed everyone to think I was dead while he hunted you down." "But why?" Reaper demanded. "If you were alive this whole time, why didn't you contact us? Why let everyone think?" "Because I was protecting my son." Robert's voice cracked. "They had Marcus, Reaper. Snake and Morrison had him, and they told me if I didn't cooperate, if I didn't stay hidden, they'd kill him. So I hid. I stayed in that basement for 8 months, watching through Morrison's security feeds as they kept Marcus prisoner in a facility outside the city. I did everything they asked. I erased the financial evidence. I handed over my passwords. I signed papers that made Snake the beneficiary of overseas accounts. All of it. Because they promised if I cooperated, they'd let Marcus go. Marcus felt like he was drowning again. But I don't remember being held prisoner. I only remember waking up in an alley." "That's because they drugged you," Robert said, his voice breaking. "A drug called Rohypnol, mixed with something experimental. It wipes short-term memory, makes the victim suggestible. They kept you sedated for weeks while they searched for where I'd hidden the backup evidence. When you couldn't, tell them anything, they decided you were useless. Morrison wanted to kill you, but Snake convinced him to just dump you on the streets with manufactured memories of me abandoning you." The SUV turned onto a side street, heading toward the waterfront. Marcus's head spun with revelations. "So everything I remember about you leaving me, it's fake?" "They planted those memories during the drugging sessions," Robert confirmed. "Made you think I'd betrayed you so you wouldn't try to find me. Made you think you were alone so you'd stay invisible. And it worked. For 8 months, you survived on the streets while Morrison and Snake tore the city apart looking for that USB drive." Reaper leaned forward. "Where have you been? Why surface now?" "I've been hiding in Milwaukee, trying to build a case against Morrison through FBI contacts. But 3 days ago, I saw the video of Marcus saving Lily. I knew the moment Morrison saw it, he'd make his move. I had to get to Marcus first." Robert finally lowered the gun, his hands shaking. "I planted that fake body in the river to make Morrison think he'd won, to buy time. But it's not enough. Snake has Lily, and he won't let her go until he gets that drive." "We have the drive," Marcus said. "We found it in Lily's teddy bear." Robert's eyes widened. "You found it? Thank God. That's the only copy of the complete evidence. 3 years of financial records, videos of Snake meeting with Morrison, everything. But Marcus, you can't give it to Snake. The moment he has it, he'll destroy it and kill all of you. So what do we do?" Marcus asked. "He has Lily. He's going to kill her if we don't show up." "We make a trade," Robert said. "But not the one Snake expects." The SUV pulled into an abandoned dock area on the Chicago River. Shipping containers were stacked like metal building blocks. creating a maze of shadows. Robert led them into one of the containers, where a laptop and communication equipment were set up like a makeshift command center. "I've been monitoring Snake's communications for weeks," Robert explained, typing rapidly. "He's not at the Riverside warehouse. That's a trap. Morrison's men are there waiting to ambush you. Subscribe to see how this impossible situation plays out." "Then where is he?" Reaper growled. Robert pulled up a security feed showing a small office building on the south side. In one of the rooms, Lily sat tied to a chair, her face streaked with tears. Snake stood behind her, checking his phone. "He's at his own office, the place he runs his legitimate business as cover. He thinks no one would look for him there." Robert zoomed in on Lily. "There are only 2 guards with him. Morrison's team is at the warehouse. This is our chance. Or it's another trap," Reaper said. "You've been dead for 8 months, Robert. How do I know you're not working with Snake? How do I know this isn't all part of the plan?" Robert's face hardened. "Because I love that boy more than my own life. Because I spent 8 months in hell watching them torture information out of him that he didn't have. Because every day I wake up hating myself for not finding another way." He turned to Marcus. "I failed you, son. I let them take you. I let them hurt you. But I'm here now, and I'm going to make this right." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. You call me son? I've called you that since the day you came to live with me," Robert said softly. "You just don't remember. But before all this happened, I was 3 weeks away from finalizing your adoption. You were going to be Marcus Miller officially. You were going to be my son forever." Tears burned Marcus's eyes. A family. He'd had a family, and someone had stolen it from him. Stolen his memories, his life, his future. The rage that rose in his chest was unlike anything he'd ever felt. "I want to remember," Marcus said. "I want to remember everything." "You will," Robert promised. "Once we get Lily back and put Snake and Morrison in prison, we'll get you the best doctors. We'll reverse what they did to you. I swear it." Reaper studied Robert for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, I believe you. So what's the plan?" Robert pulled up a blueprint of Snake's office building. "There's a loading dock in the back. The security cameras have a blind spot here and here. We can get in undetected, get to the 3rd floor where he's holding Lily, and extract her before Snake realizes what's happening." "And the USB drive?" Marcus asked. "We upload it to the FBI before we move. Insurance. If anything happens to us, at least Snake and Morrison go down." Robert plugged the drive into his laptop and started the upload. "This'll take 10 minutes. They spent those 10 minutes planning. Reaper would go in first, using his bulk and reputation to draw Snake's attention. Robert would cover the exit. Marcus would slip in through the ventilation system, small enough to fit where the adults couldn't, and get to Lily. The upload finished. Robert sent the files to his FBI contact with a message. "If you don't hear from me in 2 hours, arrest Deputy Chief Morrison and Daniel Snake Carson." "Let's go get my daughter," Reaper said. "Hit that like button. This rescue is about to get intense." They drove to Snake's office in tense silence. The building was a nondescript 3-story structure wedged between a laundromat and a check-cashing place. Exactly the kind of place no one would look twice at. Robert parked 2 blocks away. They approached on foot, using the gathering dusk as cover. True to Robert's intel, the loading dock's security camera was angled away from the entrance. They slipped inside without incident. The building was eerily quiet. Their footsteps echoed on the concrete stairs as they climbed to the 3rd floor. Reaper went first, his massive frame moving with surprising stealth. Robert covered the rear. Marcus carried a small crowbar to pry open the vent covers. They reached the 3rd floor. Down the hall, light spilled from under a door marked Private Office. Reaper held up 3 fingers, counting down. 3, 2, 1. He kicked the door open with explosive force. The office was empty. No Snake. No guards. No Lily. Just a laptop sitting on the desk, its screen glowing in the darkness. As they entered, the laptop's speakers crackled to life. "Did you really think I was that stupid?" Snake's voice poured from the speakers, dripping with contempt. "I've been tracking Robert's FBI contact for months. The moment you uploaded those files, I knew exactly where you were." On the laptop screen, a video feed appeared. Marcus's blood froze. It showed the dock where they'd left the SUV. Morrison and a dozen tactical team members surrounded it, weapons drawn. They were placing charges on the shipping containers, the same containers where Robert had set up his equipment. "I've got men at the dock ready to blow your little hideout to pieces," Snake continued. "And before you ask, yes, I moved Lily. She's somewhere you'll never find her. Somewhere even Morrison doesn't know about." Reaper's face went purple with rage. "You son of a..." "Here's what's going to happen," Snake interrupted. "Robert's going to come to the Riverside warehouse like I originally asked. Alone, unarmed. He's going to walk in and surrender himself. If he does that, I'll tell you where Lily is. If he doesn't, I blow up your equipment at the docks. Morrison arrests anyone who survives, and Lily disappears forever. You have 30 minutes. The screen went dark. Robert stood frozen, his face ashen. "He's got us. If I don't go, Lily dies. If I do go, I die, and there's no guarantee he'll keep his word." Marcus's mind raced. There had to be another way. There had to be. His phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number. But this one wasn't from Snake. "Marcus, it's me. Lily." Snake left his phone unlocked. "I'm in a basement somewhere with water pipes. I can hear trains overhead. Please hurry. I'm scared. L." Below the text was a photo. A shaky image of a basement with exposed pipes and a small window showing train tracks above. Marcus showed it to Reaper and Robert. "She's near the L train. Somewhere with a basement that backs up to the tracks." Robert's fingers flew across his phone, pulling up a map. There are only 3 buildings that fit that description in Snake's property portfolio. This one, and... He stopped, his face going white. "No, he wouldn't." "Wouldn't what?" Reaper demanded. "My old apartment. The one Marcus and I lived in. It's the only one of these 3 with direct L train access overhead." Robert looked at Marcus, his eyes filled with horror. "He's had her there the whole time. In our home. A home Marcus couldn't remember. A home that had been stolen from him along with everything else." "Then that's where we go," Marcus said. "Right now." They ran back down the stairs and out of the building. But as they reached the street, every instinct Marcus had developed on the streets screamed danger. Too quiet. Too empty. Something was wrong. The first shot came from a rooftop across the street, punching through the air where Reaper's head had been a second before. The biker king dove for cover behind a parked car. More shots followed. Morrison's tactical team emerged from the shadows on all sides, boxing them incompletely. "Drop your weapons." Morrison's voice boomed. There's nowhere left to run. They were trapped. Morrison's men closed in from every direction. The apartment where Lily was held captive was 10 blocks away. Might as well have been 1,000. Robert looked at Marcus with desperate, haunted eyes. "I'm sorry, son. I'm so sorry." Marcus's hand found the USB drive in his pocket, the copy Robert had made before uploading the files. The original evidence. The only thing Snake and Morrison truly feared. He had one chance. One impossible, insane chance. Marcus raised his hands above his head, the USB drive visible in his palm. "Morrison," he shouted. "I'll trade the drive for Lily's location. Right now." Morrison emerged from behind his tactical team, a cruel smile on his face. "You're in no position to bargain, kid. You want this drive destroyed, don't you?" Marcus held it over a storm drain. "You want to make sure no one ever sees what's on it. Well, here's your chance. Tell us where Snake is holding Lily, and I'll drop it down this drain right now. It'll be gone forever." Morrison considered this, his gun still trained on them. "How do I know that's the real drive?" "Because I'm a 12-year-old kid who just wants this nightmare to end," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "Because I don't care about your money or your crimes. I just want to save that little girl and get my life back. So tell me where she is, and this drive disappears." The moment stretched. Morrison's finger tightened on the trigger. Then his phone rang. Morrison answered, listened, and his face went pale. He lowered his weapon slowly. "What is it?" one of his men asked. "Stand down," Morrison said quietly. "All of you, stand down right now." "Sir, that's an order." Morrison's voice cracked. He looked at Marcus with something like fear. "The FBI just raided Snake's office. They have everything, surveillance footage, financial records, recordings of our conversations. Everything." Robert smiled grimly. I didn't upload the files to one FBI contact. I uploaded them to 20. Some of them people even you don't own. Morrison. It's over. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Real police this time, not Morrison's corrupted officers. Morrison's tactical teams scattered like rats, disappearing into the night. Morrison himself stood frozen, watching his empire crumble. Where's Lily? Reaper growled, advancing on him. Morrison's phone buzzed with another call. He answered, listened, then his face went from pale to gray. The phone slipped from his fingers and shattered on the pavement. What? Marcus demanded. What is it? Morrison looked at them with hollow eyes. That was Snake. He says if the FBI are coming for him anyway, he's got nothing left to lose. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. He's flooding the basement where he's holding the girl. Says she's got 5 minutes before the water reaches the ceiling. The world stopped. 5 minutes. Lily had 5 minutes to live, and they were 10 blocks away. 5 minutes. Marcus didn't think. He ran. His feet hit the pavement hard, his lungs burning as he sprinted down the street. Behind him, he heard Reaper shouting, heard Robert calling his name, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. 10 blocks might as well have been 10 miles, but he had to try. The apartment building rose ahead of him. A shabby 3-story structure wedged between a bodega and a pawn shop. Marcus hit the entrance at full speed, crashed through the door, and took the stairs down to the basement 3 at a time. His old home. The place where he'd lived with Robert. The place he couldn't remember. The basement door was locked. Marcus slammed his shoulder against it once, twice. On the third hit, the old wood splintered and gave way. Water rushed over his feet. The basement was flooding fast. Dark water pouring from broken pipes Snake had deliberately sabotaged. In the center of the room, Lily sat tied to a chair, the water already up to her chest. Her eyes were wide with terror, her mouth gagged. Lily. Marcus waded into the freezing water, the cold hitting him like a physical blow. Deja vu crashed over him. He'd been here before. The lake. The ice. The desperate race against death. But this time would be different. This time he wouldn't fail. He reached Lily and tore the gag from her mouth. She sobbed, gasping for air. Marcus, I'm scared. I can't. The water's too high. I've got you. His fingers fumbled with the ropes binding her wrists. They were thick, industrial grade, tied with knots designed not to come loose. The water kept rising. Chest height now. I've got you, Lily. I promise. Heavy footsteps pounded down the stairs. Reaper burst through the doorway, Robert right behind him. The biker king waded in, pulling a knife from his vest. Together, they cut through the ropes while Marcus supported Lily's weight, keeping her head above water. The last rope fell away. Reaper scooped his daughter into his arms and turned toward the exit. That's when Snake appeared in the doorway, blocking their escape. He held a gun in one hand and a detonator in the other. Nobody leaves, Snake said quietly. His face was calm, almost peaceful. The FBI has everything. Morrison's finished. My money's gone. There's nothing left. He raised the detonator. So we all go down together. Snake, don't, Robert pleaded. There's a child here. Whatever happens to the rest of us, let the girl go. That girl is the reason this all fell apart. Snake's composure cracked. If Reaper hadn't brought her to that diner, if she hadn't fallen through that ice, Marcus would have stayed invisible. But no, he had to play hero. Had to get his face all over social media. And now everything's destroyed. The water was at Marcus's neck now. Lily clung to her father's shoulders, crying. They were trapped. Snake blocked the only exit, and behind them, the water kept rising with nowhere to drain. You don't have to do this, Marcus said, his voice steady despite his terror. You're right, it's over. But you don't have to kill us. You don't have to add 4 more murders to everything else. Subscribe to see how this ends. You won't believe what happens next. Snake laughed, a hollow sound. For murders? Kid, you have no idea what I've done. What I've had to do. Morrison and I have left a trail of bodies across 3 states. What's 4 more? Because one of them is a 7-year-old girl, Robert said. Because somewhere inside you, there's still a man who wouldn't murder a child in cold blood. For a moment, Snake's finger hesitated on the detonator. Just a moment. Then the basement door above exploded inward. FBI agents in tactical gear poured down the stairs, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Snake spun toward them, raising his gun. "Drop it," an agent screamed. Snake's eyes met Marcus's one last time. Something shifted in that gaze. Regret, maybe, or resignation. "I'm sorry, kid. For what we did to you. For what we took." He raised the gun toward the agents. 20 weapons fired at once. Snake's body jerked backward from the impact, falling into the flooding water. The detonator flew from his hand, splashing down somewhere in the murky darkness. For a heart-stopping moment, Marcus waited for the explosion. It never came. The water shorted out the detonator. Snake's final act of destruction failed. FBI agents waded in, pulling them toward the stairs. Marcus's legs gave out halfway up, and Robert caught him, lifting him like he weighed nothing. They emerged into the cold Chicago evening, gasping and shivering. Paramedics wrapped them in blankets. Police cars and FBI vehicles clogged the street, their lights painting the night red and blue. Marcus watched as they brought up Snake's body, watched as they led Morrison away in handcuffs. It was over. It was finally over. Lily broke free from the paramedic checking her vitals and ran to Marcus, throwing her small arms around him. "You saved me again," she sobbed into his chest. "You keep saving me." Marcus hugged her back, his own tears finally breaking free. "You saved me first. You pulled me out of the darkness, Lily. Both times." Reaper approached, his massive frame silhouetted against the emergency lights. For a moment, Marcus thought the biker king might hug him. Instead, Reaper extended his hand. "You've got more courage than men twice your size," Reaper said gruffly. "You need anything at all, you come to me. You're family now. That's not something we forget." Marcus shook his hand, feeling the calluses, the strength, the genuine respect. Family. The word felt foreign and wonderful at the same time. Robert appeared beside them, his arm in a sling from where an agent had pulled him too hard from the water. "Son, we need to talk. About what happens next." They sat on the back of an ambulance while paramedics checked their vitals. Robert spoke slowly, carefully, like he was afraid the words might break something. "The FBI is offering us witness protection. New names, new city, new lives. We'd be safe from anyone who might want revenge for Snake or Morrison." He looked at Marcus. "But it would mean leaving Chicago, leaving everything behind, starting over. Hit that like button if this story moved you, and stay till the very end." Marcus thought about the streets he'd called home for 8 months. The alleys, the shelters, the faces of other homeless kids who'd shown him how to survive. He thought about Reaper and Lily, about the makeshift family he'd found in the strangest places. "What do you want?" Marcus asked. "I want my son back," Robert said simply. "I want to get you the treatment to restore your memories. I want to finish that adoption. I want to give you the life we were building before all this happened." His voice cracked. "But only if that's what you want to." Marcus looked at his foster father, at the man who'd sacrificed 8 months of his life, who'd endured torture and imprisonment, all to protect him. At the man who'd called him son when no one else ever had. The darkness in his mind shifted. A fragment of memory surfaced, sitting at a kitchen table, doing homework while Robert cooked dinner, laughing at a bad joke, feeling safe, feeling wanted, feeling loved. "I want to go home," Marcus whispered. "I want to remember everything. I want to be your son." Robert pulled him into a hug, and Marcus felt 8 months of fear and loneliness finally break apart. They stood there for a long time, neither wanting to let go. 3 months later, the Chicago courtroom was packed. Marcus sat in the front row, wearing a suit Robert had bought him for the occasion. His hair was cut, his face had filled out from 3 months of regular meals, and the haunted look in his eyes had faded. The judge looked down at them from her bench. "Mr. Miller, you've completed all the required steps for the adoption. The psychological evaluations show Marcus is thriving in your care. The FBI has confirmed your cooperation in the Morrison case." She smiled. "Does Marcus have anything he'd like to say?" Marcus stood, his hand finding Robert's. "Your Honor, for most of my life, I thought family was something that happened to other people. I bounced between foster homes, between people who saw me as a paycheck or a burden. Then Robert took me in. He didn't have to. I was 12, too old, too damaged. But he chose me anyway. His voice grew stronger. Someone tried to take that away from us. They took my memories, my sense of safety, my belief that I could be loved. But they couldn't take away what we built together. They couldn't destroy what was real. He looked at Robert. I want to be Marcus Miller. I want him to be my dad. Not just on paper, but for real. Forever. The judge's smile widened. Then it is my honor to grant this petition. Marcus Miller, you are officially and legally the son of Robert Miller. Congratulations to you both. The courtroom erupted in applause. Reaper stood in the back row with Lily on his shoulders, the little girl clapping enthusiastically. Other bikers filled the benches. The Hells Angels had come out in force to support one of their own. Outside the courthouse, Lily ran up and hugged Marcus. Does this mean you're my friend forever? She asked. Forever, Marcus promised. As they walked down the courthouse steps, Marcus felt Robert's hand on his shoulder. His memories had slowly returned over the past months, fragments at first, then whole days, whole weeks. He remembered the kitchen table homework sessions, remembered Robert teaching him to ride a motorcycle, remembered the day Robert had first said, I love you, son. He remembered everything he'd lost, and he remembered everything he'd gained. Marcus looked up at the Chicago sky, at the clouds drifting over the city that had tried to destroy him and failed. He'd survived frozen lakes, lost memories, corrupt cops, and impossible choices. He'd stared death in the face twice and refused to blink. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Marcus opened it, his breath catching. You saved my daughter's life. I owe you everything. But there's something you should know. Morrison isn't the only dirty cop on Snake's payroll. There are 3 more, and they're coming for you. Watch your back. Anonymous. Below the text was a photo of 3 police officers Marcus didn't recognize. Robert noticed his expression. What is it? Marcus showed him the message. For a moment, fear flickered across Robert's face. Then it hardened into determination. Let them come, Robert said quietly. We survived worse. We'll survive this too. Together. Marcus pocketed his phone and took his father's hand. Together, he agreed. They walked toward their car, where a new life waited, where challenges and dangers still lurked, where the past refused to stay buried. But for the first time in his life, Marcus Miller wasn't afraid, because he wasn't alone anymore. He had a father. He had a family. He had a home worth fighting for. And he'd fight for it with everything he had. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The city lights flickered on as evening fell over Chicago. Somewhere in those shadows, 3 corrupt cops plotted revenge. Somewhere, the remnants of Snake's criminal empire waited to strike back. But in that moment, walking beside his father toward an uncertain future, Marcus smiled. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning.